we are.
Where's my hammer? Okay, folks, welcome everybody. Thanks for coming to our meeting tonight in November the 9th. And I'd like to start off with the Aboriginal Acknowledgement. We would like to acknowledge the land of which we are gathered is the traditional territory of the Tanaha, Silix, and Sinaiks peoples, and is home to Métis and many diverse Aboriginal persons. We honor their connection to the land, rivers, and respect the importance of the environment to our strength as a community. And with that, are there any late items? Hearing none. Motion to adopt the agenda, please. Moved by Councillor Renwick, second by Councillor Woodward. All in favour? Carried. Thanks very much. Adoption of the minutes of the October 13th regular council meeting. Moved by Councillor Morrison, second by Councillor Page. All in favour? Thank you. Carried. Recommendation of the committee to hold. There aren't any. And the first item on the agenda is the winter sidewalk cafes. And the report is, this report is a follow-up to a report presented on October 26th at the committee of the whole meeting, and it's attached to your agenda package. The Sidewalk Cafe bylaw has provisions to allow for patios to operate outside of the regular time frame, subject to approval of council. A total of 4 restaurants are interested in continuing to operate their patio during the winter months of November 1st to April 31st. Council is now requested to consider the request from the interested businesses. And with that, Sebastian's here to give us a bit of an update, and then I'll be asking for a council resolution going forward.
Okay.
Sebastian.
Thank you. So essentially, this is kind of a follow-up to the report that was presented to council at the committee of whole on October 26th. So not a whole lot has changed. I guess following that meeting, I had some direction to follow based on our discussion, and communicated with the business owners that were potentially interested in operating a sidewalk cafe during the winter time. And so following that conversation, 4 were interested. 3 are located in amenity spaces, and 1 is located along an on-street, partially on the street, and a portion on the sidewalk. So typically the Sidewalk Cafe bylaw allows patios to operate between May 1st and October 21st, which is, you know, of course, during the nice, or I guess the season where it is better to, or it's more feasible to dine in the outdoors. But we did have a provision in the bylaw that permitted for sidewalk cafes to operate during for a 12-month period, and based on certain criteria, and not impeding circulation on the sidewalk, not impeding snow clearing, not occupying an on-street parking stall, designed to be complementary to the building, and any other specific conditions. So those, I think that provision was mostly to, you know, to allow for certain patios to be located on our land on a semi-permanent basis. Sometimes it could help to create barrier-free access to the restaurant, things like that. So I'm not sure it was really contemplating winter patio at that point in time, but given everything that's happening this year, I think winter patios can slide under those provisions. So again, the 4 considerations that, based on my consultation with internal staff, was really around structural safety. So making sure that if there's any roof structure, that their snow load is being calculated, proper venting as well, because a lot of these heaters are made for exterior heating. So if you enclose a building, they're not properly vented, and if you do enclose those structures, they become a building, and then nothing can jive with the building code. So those are kind of the issues there. Snow removal, of course, you know, interference with street cleaning, risk of damage of the structures. The environmental piece that we discussed was, you know, we're essentially heating the outdoor, so, you know, significant energy output, so that's one consideration. And terms of approvals, we would need council to give us direction to approve them, and then staff will go through a permitting process, and we would evaluate all the other criteria and anything specific that council wants us to evaluate. So, in essence, the way the approval is operating is that there is a recommendation for each of the 4 sidewalk cafes, and given that one was located on the street, staff is recommending denying that one, but is also providing an alternative to allow that sidewalk cafe to operate in some way, shape, or form, as long as it is on the sidewalk and not on the street. So essentially, that is an overview of the report. I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Councillor Woodward.
Thank you. So can you just talk a little more about the denial on this, or if it's on the street or on the sidewalk? Can you just clarify that a little more?
Yeah, well, I mean, based on our previous conversation, I think the snow clearing was kind of an unknown in this case. So that was the major factor that we're recommending denial for that one. So, and also that one does not fit within the bylaw. So, I mean, it's more of a procedural thing, but this one is not necessarily, council would have to exempt that application from the bylaw in order to allow it, because, given the time constraint, we wouldn't want to go, if council chooses to allow this patio, I don't think we want to go through the bylaw amendment process, because it'll take a bit of time, and so there's another way to achieve that. So essentially, it was really snow clearing, and it was essentially sticking with the current bylaw, or the 2 reasons.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Anderson.
Yeah, I'm just, I understand the snow clearing concern, but I'm wondering if we could consider it as a pilot to see how that works. This year, we have one restaurant that's been around in our community for a really long time. We can see how it goes this year, and if it just is not feasible from an operational perspective, then we learn that from, as a pilot project.
So, Sebastian, just a bit of clarification on that. I think what you're recommending for the Main Street diner we're talking about here
Yes.
is you're actually not reducing their table capacity by moving them onto the sidewalk. They probably have similar capacity, but with a pathway that would extend the sidewalk around on the street. Is that what you were thinking?
No, I did talk to Nick, who is also here, and he could probably answer that question a bit better. I did present that option to Nick, but it didn't really work out. They would lose a significant amount of seating. So
Okay.
For them to make it worth their while, I think the on-street option is better. And to Councillor Anderson's point, when we're piloting things, one is a good way to pilot it. And, there's pros in terms of his design being already designed with concrete, so the risk of damages are probably reduced. So that is obviously something that can be considered.
Councillor Renwick.
Thank you, Mayor. I would be in favor of Councillor Anderson's request as well, because I do. I've talked to Nick myself. I read his letter, and I, as we said earlier, Sebastian, when we had a meeting or two about this, we want to do what's right and what's fair for everybody, and. The three other ones it's pretty easy when they're dealing with an amenity area. Mm-hmm. But here we've got someone that doesn't have an amenity area. He's got, in my mind, the best patio in that there's 18,000 pounds of concrete guarding it. Mm-hmm. And he's willing to do what he needs to do to have those extra seats, because, he's got one of those businesses that's long and narrow and one entrance and very limited and the patio in the parking area makes a lot of sense. And I would like to see us work with him and do what we can to help him out in this situation. The other question that I had is that we have patios, sidewalk patios were allowed for 12 months. Is that 12 months, is that like May to May or January to December? Is that, do you remember what the bylaw says? Because I don't.
Yeah, I mean, we could start at any point in time, but I think the way we would deal with these patios is that we would give them a permit from essentially, we would go to from November 1st to April 30th, and then May 1st, they would kick back in. We would go back to the regular summer patios, and then, you know, based on the experience that we're going to have this year, council may decide to relook at the bylaw to consider more winter patios down the road. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
Well, just in the bylaw 3.1.4, a sidewalk cafe that is operating under a valid permit may make application to council to operate for a 12-month period if it meets all the conditions. And I'm just wondering, is that from the day they apply, or the 12-month period specific?
yeah,
December.
it would be from the day that we would issue the permit. Yeah.
Just a second, Colin?
I'm just gonna say, so once we have a few that have them, like John
12
Ward
months.
and Jackson's and Hume.
Jackson's, yeah.
So once they're in that and they've got that criteria, we just end up billing them once they got in the queue. It's sort of, we didn't, start in January, here's your invoice for the year or monthly, that sort of thing. So we haven't looked at.
So, to move this forward, what I'm gonna ask council, if it's okay with you, that we move 1, 2, and 3. And then if you wish to make an adjustment to number 4, which is Main Street Diner, then at that time you can put forward your motion to adjust it or not. Okay, so I'll ask for a mover. Are you moving, Councillor Page? Mm-hmm. Numbers 1, 2, and 3. You need a seconder. Councillor Lochtenberg?
I do have a question,
You have a question? Okay,
I
go
do.
ahead.
but it's germane to the rest of it.
Is this through the staff now?
Yeah, it is through to staff, and I don't know where the conversation around fees will eventually end up. But on the fee thought and the heating thought, I was wondering if it would be appropriate, especially going forward, if we like winter patios, that we would have a preferred rate or discounted rate if you were to use electric heat versus anything else, and tier it that way. And same to this, that if people want to move forward with a patio that has heated seat cushions, for instance, like was shown in our previous report, perhaps they end up with a much reduced rate over people who want to use propane heaters.
So when council passes a fee, there's considerations you have to make. And you have to consult around your fee base. So if that's something that you want us to look at in the future, I don't think you could do that tonight, because fees have to be effectively cost-based, but you can, I think you're probably within your rights to incent, but there is a process of making sure people are aware of those rates, what that rate structure is, how it was developed. So certainly if you want to, maybe after this, and you want to make that a recommendation or a requirement, or ask staff to look into that for future rate setting for patios, I think that, we could certainly do that.
Okay, like if staff hears that, and that's what I was just thinking, that these things should be separated and tiered. And we can probably figure out how many trees everyone gets to plant with the extra money coming off the gas fee, sidewalk patio.
Yeah, I think at this point in time, with what we're dealing with COVID and everything else, some people have invested in that infrastructure, and it'd be unreasonable at this point in time to force them into an area that, we could have a phased-in program, I think would probably work best on that. Okay, so we have 1, 2, and 3. Oh, sorry, Councillor Lochtenberg, you had a question. Sorry.
Yeah, and it was on the heating. We did, if the public doesn't know about it, we did have this discussion about heating the outdoors with gas. and it's not an idle consideration. The amount of emissions that come from this outdoor heating is really significant. It's surprising. I know when I did the research, I was like, oh my God, it's huge. So I get, we're in COVID, and this is a tough spot that these restaurants are in, and some of them have invested in infrastructure. But I think staff needs to do everything they can to work with these restaurants to look at these electric options, because they're good. And I think that's the other thing we saw, that with a little bit of extra legwork, and you can do this in a sustainable way. The heated cushions, the electric heat in general. So really want to stress that.
Thank you. Okay. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none. All in favor of 1, 2, and 3? Thank you. Approved. And now we're moving on to number 4, the Main Street Diner.
I'm gonna move that we approve.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Now, hang on. You had a few stipulations there, though, right?
The council approves the request from Main Street Diner to be exempted from the site. Right, I think we can just,
As is. Are you approving it? You're approving the patio.
Approved as opposed to denied.
yeah, wouldn't I strike the word deny and put approve, and that's, yeah.
Well, other than, one of the recommendations here is that it be along the sidewalk. I think you're talking about approving.
No, I'm
exist-
talking about the number 4, just changing
Yeah,
the
okay.
language. My motion is to change the language from denies to approves.
Okay.
So if that's the case, then we can just simply remove number 5.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
yes.
exactly.
So it won't even come into play. So moved by Councillor Anderson, seconded.
Right here.
Second, Councillor Woodward, or not?
Well, go ahead, Brandon. Yeah,
Councillor Renwick, okay?
I just want a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just a point of clarification here. In the agenda document, at the bottom, there's the 4 businesses and pictures. And in the Main Street Diner, it says, no longer contemplating second patio fronting adjacent business.
Yeah. Yes.
So I'm a little bit confused as to, are we talking about the patio that's already in front of the Main Street Diner with the concrete blocks and not an extension on that?
Correct.
Okay, that's what I, thank you very much.
Councillor Page?
I'm just going to try and unwrap this a little bit. And there's some consequences I might see with just approving 4. And one of them is, while the others will be subjected to a fee, would this, if they're just carte blanche exempted from the sidewalk cafe bylaw, does that mean they're not going to have to be on the hook for any fees or any of the other requirements inside of it? And further, like, I'm assuming have this number 4 because they actually gave us a request and asked for something specific, and so, if they're not contemplating the location in front of Valhalla Pure at this point, how consequential is that? And maybe that's, a motion to talk to
I think you're exempting them from being on the street.
Right.
That provision of the bylaw, right?
Essentially, yes. Yeah.
And I think you should be
Your fees
clear
will
about
apply.
that. Yes, just, that's the part of the bylaw you're exempting them from, is being on the street.
So the regular fees apply.
So I think you
do
just
we
should be
need to-
clear in your bylaw, or in your motion.
Resolution.
And can I,
clarify this motion then? Because it exempts them from the whole bylaw.
yeah, it shouldn't read that way. It should be exempt from that provision of the bylaw.
Do we know what that provision is?
Yeah, I think Sebastian had that there, didn't he?
Yeah, you'll have to give us an example to include it in the motion, Sebastian,
Yeah.
please. It's in there.
Yeah.
It's number,
So it'd be, it's under 3.1.4 of the bylaw. It falls under subparagraph C.
so,
So
So
just
I'll move
include,
to amend the
sorry?
motion.
Your motion to amend?
To amend the motion to exempt them from the sidewalk cafe bylaw, section the section of the sidewalk bylaw 3.1.4.c.
Okay,
Job.
so
I'll second that.
second the amendment, Councillor Anderson? All in favor of the amendment? Carried. Okay, we'll go back to the motion now as amended.
this one thing. I think the direction, like, we have this one, and I think we just need to be clear as staff. Are you exempting this one, or are you open to others? Because we've told others they couldn't be on the street.
It's a pilot, right?
that is that because it's concrete block, is it the size of their restaurant? What's the criteria if others now approach Sebastian and say, we'd like to be on the street as well?
Okay, well, first of all, one thing that Sebastian made pretty clear was the concrete abutment was important for the winter, but anyway, that's just one thing. But Councillor Lochtenberg and then Councillor
Well, that's gonna be my question here and potential comment. So just so I understand, those concrete blocks are there. And probably no other restaurant has that sort of infrastructure in place. It seems to me.
No posts would be pretty easy to install.
Yeah, no, but existing. So there's something there that it's sort of blocked out already. I'm trying to find the where the exemption, like you're saying, like what's the policy on this? And it seems to me that if there's infrastructure in place that does, work with our plowing, that might be, if you have infrastructure in place and it works with our plowing, that might be the policy. So that's where the exception.
Probably don't have to make that within this one.
Yeah.
It's just staff are gonna need to be able to answer others.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that there will be any additional interest, but you never know. If there's a successful model out there, maybe others may come, but they will have to go. We'll have to bring them forward to council, and we'll have to have that conversation with them for sure.
I was just gonna say that those concrete abutments have been there for a long time, and so city has been plowing around that particular patio for many, many years. So it's not like a new addition has been added to the street. But I think the concern we've talked about at this table is with the temporary structures that were there was a high likelihood of being damaged, and the liability is through the roof on those if somebody's sitting there. So I think there really is quite a big difference between a temporary structure and what Main Street Diner has had for, I don't know how many years, but a long time. So
Well, just to be clear though, it is typically removed during the winter.
the concrete blocks?
They are, yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
It's temporary.
I didn't know that, I'm sorry. I thought they remained.
That one's
No,
not
just
formal.
I just wanted to
Okay,
clarify.
I didn't know that, I'm sorry, I apologize.
Well, okay,
So strike my.
I assumed the blocks were staying there. I don't know
Well,
why.
they would.
Right.
They would, but they usually take
They
them away
normally
in the
take them
winter.
out.
Okay, so the city of Nelson does not have experience plowing around those blocks. Aha.
No. No, we sweep around them, but never plowed around them.
Right,
So I think this needs a little bit more thought. If the blocks are not there, it's a whole different
yeah.
scenario. And I don't know if I read this wrong, but I assumed the blocks were staying.
No,
I shouldn't
that
have
is
done
that is correct, and the blocks are staying as
What
part
is-
of.
Well, the blocks are staying.
Yeah, because
Yes.
that's his patio.
Okay, sorry.
Blocks
I
of the
thought I heard
patio.
somebody say the word.
I assumed the blocks stayed there all winter long. And
Oh, no,
And
sorry.
they're
I
talking
didn't-
about the
I
same,
didn't know that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't
No,
know
that's
they were-
fine. Good. Sorry, I was,
Sorry.
okay. Beg your pardon, Trustee, yeah. All right, that's good. Keith?
Yeah, so I think the important part too was that this one being before us would be that pilot, would be like, what does that look like on the street? It's got the blocks that are there that we usually take down, like that's to your point, I think usually they would
Yeah.
come down.
Yeah.
But if there's a patio there, they would stay up, but at least if there's only one we're dealing with, if it's a thorn in the side, at least it's only one thorn in the side. So I think we can take a little bit of risk here in trying something out if that's what they want to do, and then we can see how that impacts public works, and hopefully it's not a thorn in their thigh, because I think there's gonna be a lot of consideration when you're actually in the vehicle, moving that snow around, what it actually does and how that looks to the operator, but we'll find that out. And I hope it's not a disaster, but to me, I think we should try a pilot, because it might be something we want to do year in and year out.
Councillor Renwick?
I had a lengthy meeting with with Nick on Friday afternoon, and Nick assured me, that the owners of the said restaurant would do all they could to keep the snow cleared and help the city with their snow removal, as well as marking the corners and what have you. So I think we can hold Nick's feet to the fire on that one.
Or the
Okay.
electric blanket.
And so So how are we talking to other businesses if when this comes out, other businesses may be like, well, I would like to put concrete blocks in, so what is staff, what are we giving staff? So is this a pilot, and we're saying we're running a pilot on one business, and that's what's happening? Is that the direction for staff?
That's the way I understand it.
Well, again, it's not a strong argument, but they do have infrastructure in place. It's concrete. If you set this bar at, okay, yes, the policy will be, if you bring in concrete blocks, if you meet, the snow removal requirements, then we'll consider it, and it can come before council again. But and it's
They
not
would come
strong,
back
but
here.
it's probably the best we've got.
They would come back here, Sebastian, right?
Yeah, I think I have enough to have the conversation with the business community on it. If they're interested, they'll come and talk to us, and then we can explain the process, and we can explain council's thinking behind approving this one. And if there's strong arguments that they want to make to council and bring it forward, I guess there's nothing we can do to stop them from doing that. So
I think you could be clear, though, that you wouldn't entertain no posts,
correct.
concrete blocks. And that likely would, that's the simplest way to, do that is using no posts and, so if you're not gonna entertain those, then that would reduce the potential number of people that would come forward.
So you might want to add a little bit to that resolution, that the sidewalk cafe would include the existing barrier structure at Main Street. That would,
I'll move that if you think that's appropriate.
I think so, yeah. Moved by Councillor Page, second by Councillor Luxembourg, all in favor? Carried, so we had that wording there, okay. All right, get down there and get the frying pan going, Nick.
Gotta pass the whole motion stuff.
Yeah, we have to pass the whole motion. We just passed.
All in
the
favor of
amendment.
the main motion as amended? Thank you.
I just had a question for council in regards to fees. I know there was some requests that the fees be waived, and we can't necessarily waive fees in this particular case, but we can look at amending the fees and charges bylaw if council would wish to do so. Again, the request has been brought forward to staff. So I was just looking for a bit of direction, and if this is something, because I think the restaurants are saying, well, this is very much a trial period. So we just feel that if we do have to pay these fees, maybe it's not worth our while. I've heard that from a couple of businesses. So again, just looking for a bit of direction. I mean, they're not going to have to pay fees until January 1st, technically, because we've waived the fees for this whole patio program until the end of the year. But then starting in 2021, we would have to charge fees. So maybe it will require another discussion, but I'm just looking for a bit more guidance, because the question will come back to me. They're going to say, okay, this is great, but are we going to be paying fees as of January 1st?
So Sebastian, we would have a fair idea though by that time of year what kind of uptake there was.
Correct. Yep.
And that would give us a better opportunity then to sort of
Okay.
decide, but however,
Monitor.
Keith?
Do we usually charge fees on a monthly basis, or like you get in November 1st, so it's a monthly? You wouldn't pay up front for this.
Again, this is unique, what you're asking for here. We have different situations. Some, when we have our summer patios, pay the whole thing up front. Others want a bit of time to get some cash flow going. So we sort of work with the vendors that are having locations. But yeah, so it's not like a set, have to do it all at once.
Yeah, my line of questioning is just along the sense that, well, you're applying now and you usually pay up front, and this is in the 2020 year, so fee waived to my mind, and carries you over into 2021. But like, if we don't usually bill them on a monthly basis anyway, then the application came through at the time when we weren't doing fees for the.
Now, there are fees you've waived fees for 2020.
Okay.
So if you hadn't done that, then fees would have been due and
applied.
payable. And we did that because we did not expect to have any parking meter revenue, or, sidewalk rental revenues, because of, at that time, it was a ghost town.
Right.
There are provisions, as you saw in the staff report, that council cannot waive taxes or fees that are legitimate. As Sebastian said, we could look at those fees. Are the fees the same in the winter as they would be for the summer period? We tend to base it on, the square footage outside your business. If it's on the street, then it's parking meter revenue, but it has to be based on something. You can't just say we want to choose something. There has to be some, rigor to how you strike fees. They're supposed to, recover costs, et cetera. And other than that, councillors can be held personally liable for these fees. Someone could, say you should have collected this fees, and you would have to individually pay the city of Nelson those fees. That's the community charter.
So we're okay for this year, and by Christmas we'll have a fair idea how this is operating, and it's a good opportunity to learn going forward, and maybe it's another opportunity for the community to continue to develop the business model, and maybe it'll go on forever, who knows? So this is a good opportunity to get a good feel for it.
We'll have to go check it out firsthand.
Exactly. Okay, we're all good, and you got a bit of an idea, Sebastian, where people are sitting here, and, okay, thank you very much for that.
Thanks, Sebastian.
Thank you.
Okay, the procedures bylaw. Council procedures bylaws before council to incorporate changes previously presented to council by staff, along with some additional changes requested by council, and also a number of housekeeping issues found in the current procedure bylaw. Council is now requested to adopt council procedure bylaw for number 3491/2020, and there is a adjustment.
Yeah, I want to rescind the third reading.
No.
Rescind the third.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, I just want to comment why we're doing this, and that's because we've realized in the procedural bylaw.
Anderson's going to Victoria.
Yeah.
Gonna make some changes to the charter.
That it states Mondays, which is the date that we have our meetings, but we're considering moving that to Tuesdays. But right now we don't have the authority to do that because of it's in our bylaws. So staff have stated that we need to rescind the third reading so that can be changed and updated.
Yeah.
So that's
Exactly.
We
just our
will pass it
rationale.
in December, though.
Yes,
Yeah.
finally,
Maybe.
hopefully, one of these
Have it
months.
passed by the end of the year.
It was a goal for 2020, exactly. Okay, so we have a mover and a seconder, all in favor? Carried, thanks very much. All right,
So, Mayor, now, ready to, give it third reading with the amendment to.
Oh, okay.
do you want to put the
I'll
amendment in?
move third
Okay.
reading with the amendment that we will be striking Monday
Second.
from the procedural bylaw.
All in favor? Carried. Okay, that's it, so there'll be no day of the week.
There won't be any day of the week in there. We won't be putting in Tuesday, and then it leaves
So
it
we'll
flexible
adopt the-
for.
No, I get it.
We would adopt the calendar then.
Is that what we're?
Is it gonna read properly is what you're asking?
Yeah. Will it come out okay?
So when we adopt the calendar that was presented to us, then that solidifies the actual day and the date of the meetings.
Procedure bylaw will.
Okay, that's all we need to do then? All right, thanks, thank you, thanks, John. Okay, the next one is a notice on title for 111 Stibbs. And it says here, a building permit was issued on December the 5th, 2006 to construct a single-family dwelling. The building permit is now expired and the owner has not completed all of the work pursuant to the building permit. Remaining deficiencies remain for which there is life and safety concerns. Council is now requested to pass a resolution directing staff to file a notice on title for the property in accordance with section 57 of the community charter. And there's a report attached, folks, and there is a recommendation from staff. Somebody wants to read or move the
Move
recommendation?
the recommendation for staff for discussion.
Second.
Questions or comments?
Is the proponent here? Is the proponent here?
No, she is not.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Is there any questions for Sam about the deficiencies or nothing? Okay, and the resolution is the corporation of the City of Nelson be directed to file notice with the Land Title and Survey Authority of British Columbia stating that a resolution has been made in accordance with section 57 of the Community Charter by the City of Nelson to land at 111 Stibbs Street, Nelson, BC, legally described as Lot B, District Lot 304, Kootenai District Plan, NEP 78811, PID 026388553. And further that if an active building permit application is in place, that it be cancelled. And finally, that the information respecting the resolution may be inspected at the office of the City of Nelson on a normal working days during the regular office hours. All in favor? Thank you. Carried. Oh, two in a row here. 708 Fairview Lane. The City of Nelson, and this is similar preamble, only with a different address, 708 Fairway Lane, Nelson, and there is a resolution attached to that, very similar to the last one, so
I'll move that for discussion.
Seconded.
moved by Councillor Morrison, a second by Councillor Page. Any questions or comments?
Can I ask if the proponent is in the room?
I don't think so.
No?
Thank you.
Okay, so all in favor of the resolution, which is exactly the last one, carried. Thank you. Next up is the agenda.
Thanks, Sam.
Thanks, Sam.
Thank you, Sam. Take care. Third quarter financial updates. And thanks, Colin, for doing a very comprehensive report here for us, hopefully. And are there any questions or comments about Colin's update? If not, Colin, you want to give us a bit of an overview on top of what you've already delivered?
Thanks, Mayor. I do. I wanted to go through a couple of highlights, and I also wanted to speak about some news that we received from the province. All municipalities did, and we'll talk about that in a bit. Overall, I just wanted to note that, in particular, the taxes, this movement of the due date to September 30th, because you had to be paid before October 1st. We did not have that many properties outstanding. Most of them had paid by July 2nd anyway. But what was very positive is in a year that we have seen, many struggles for businesses and individuals to be able to pay taxes or other fees, that the collection of revenues for taxes was actually better than the year before, because our penalty is actually lower than it was last year. So that was something that I was not expecting. And I don't know how many in here would be listening or heard, but Tech Cominco made a mistake and paid their taxes. I believe that they must have, someone, I'm sure, will be having a challenging day at work, but because it said, I think, pay before October 1st, which means you have to pay it by September 30th. Anyway, that penalty on that is $500,000. It's 10% of the taxes one day late. So Trail has a bit of a windfall for 2020 for taxes. Anyway, I just thought that was something that's interesting. Probably somebody in the accounts payable office that's having.
We're very clear on
we were
communication to make
Paid
sure
by-
people knew.
paid by September 30th. Yeah, and it was quite successful. Anyway, I just want to speak to that because I know that council cares about what's happening in our community with the residences and our businesses, and just the things that work through. I think the province did the right role as well, kind of took that over, and just very positive on that side. What will be interesting to me is now that you've got that, and we're going through some increases, second wave here, now that you've got businesses on a September 30th or October 1st due date, what do they do for 2021? Do they now again get another year like that? And so what will that mean for us and cash flow and things like that? So anyway, that was one. The other one I wanted to speak to was other revenue, just again, because there's quite a steep difference between previous years. Again, council will remember that there was quite a large TELUS AMR project that was funded, so that would be one of the main reasons. And then another one was that we had a number of connection fees, I should say. And there had been a budget this year for connection fees, another significant project, but that project has been delayed. So when this gets to year end, we will not have that revenue, but we are looking forward to 2021, and not only is that in there, but there are a number of projects too that are coming forward that will actually have more connection fee revenue coming along.
So Colin, on that note, on that whole development side, a lot of municipalities have been caught depending on that development revenue that sometimes doesn't materialize. And, you know, something, I mean, we've been fortunate here that most of what we've had in the books has actually happened. But are we thinking in terms of potentially at some point that we'll have a bit of a buffer there to cover us?
It's a great question, Mayor, and we do. And so actually over the last couple of years where we've had quite strong surpluses at the end, we've actually tucked some of those development revenues and put them into a reserve. So again, if you had to get through a year or so keeping kind of staff together, that you would have funding to be able to do that or ease the pain on that. The other part that I do, Mayor, is that when we have development fees, I sit down with the Director of Development Services and we go through, they may have paid us $100,000. However, maybe only 25% of the work has been done. So then I will actually also defer the revenue that's related to those projects and yes, and bring that in while the work is being done. So that's another thing that we try to do to monitor that. Yeah, it's a great question. Transit user fees, that was one that, again, we didn't know at the time when we built the budget what that would look like. I'm pleased to see that it's where it's at, and I'm hoping as we get closer here that we will be successful in being close to budget. And that's, again, we are seeing a real drop in the one that was giving us a challenge as far as demand being that bus trip to, well, certain timing of bus trips to and from Castlegar campus. And so right now, I think with some of the international students being down, that's not as much of a problem. Certainly we're seeing locally here, and I did talk with our transit staff, and they were saying right now, and especially part of it was a communication, there was maybe some parents, because we are still on not full capacity with the buses, and we have a lot of students that take the bus between town here to LVR in particular, and picking up from LVR, was the way that they've got the schedule fit up is that if you maybe miss one on a pickup, there's another one coming in 15 minutes. So that sort of alleviated some of the concerns that we had with parents and saying, hey, the bus isn't there. But once they found out, well, actually, if they wait 15 minutes, they will get the bus is coming. So that's been quite positive, and we haven't had too many complaints since then. I will be interested to see what happens as we see the snow kind of starting today, and what that looks like over the next 6 weeks, what pressures, because we don't, obviously we don't want to have pass-ups, but again, our transit team's awesome, and they really try to figure out how can we help the buses at that peak times, because as we know, the bus system has to be built for that peak time, and after that, during the day, we don't have as much ridership. So again, trying to have that all pulled together. One other one I'll comment on the revenue side was the hydro revenue sales, and quite fascinating as we looked at it, as it were very close to last year. Last year was a bit higher, but there was because of the payment cycles, there's an additional payment cycle in there. But we're also seeing quite a change with the COVID and businesses being kind of shut down, where some of those commercial revenues had dropped, but yet it was picked up by the residential section. So I thought that was quite interesting as we've gone on. On the expense side, just one that really kind of sticking out right now is the environmental health services, or our waste management. I note in my notes there that the garbage truck is been kind of tied up with COVID as far as when it would be here. We knew it might be a bit later, but now we're hoping it's going to come in December. But because of the situation that we're in, we are having to run 2 trucks, so 4 staff, whereas the new truck should be able to run with 3 staff, 1 driving and then 2 in the back. And also there's been a bit of a challenge with the new truck that we have. It's got, as far as the, I guess, squeezing capacity that should help out with pushing the products that we have to a place where we could actually be out longer without having to go to drop off. So we're hoping that less trips to the transfer station. Thank you. Thank you. I couldn't get there, but thank you. I appreciate it.
You could throw the gray van in there.
Hey, I'd have no way to get home. The other things that just on that side, I think overall in our expenses that we've done quite well. And then, one of the things I think we left in there was, a bit of budget for travel, but certainly so far with everything that's gone on, travel is not something that has happened. And there's been some significant savings that's gone on for that. And I notice, and even in talking with the police chief today, some of these changes that come out, which can be positive and negative, but one, we had quite a bit of drop in our Keep a Prisoner program that we have, which we kind of like to be proud of. And is their way of now doing a lot of these video court cases or video hearings sort of thing, and that going into the future, I think they're going, hey, wait a second, if this has worked during COVID, why are we paying to transport these prisoners and have to hold them and stuff like that? So he suspects that that's going to be a change coming forward, that won't be something that will generate the revenue that it was.
Everybody shows up for the video conference.
Well, I think they do have to have done those ones too. Yeah. The other component was just on the capital side. We have so much capital that goes on, and again, we are always, I think, busy finding out what's the next exciting thing to do, that we don't take a step back and take a look at what's actually been accomplished. And there's a number of things. Again, the paving that went on this year, I think it's been beautiful, and I think that all of the staff that have were involved, especially our public works utilities crews, on getting all of the cross cuts across that highway done in time, and we appreciate Ministry of Transportation and them working with us and kind of giving us the opportunity to maybe get in front of someone else, but to get all of those connections done so that when the pavement went through, that hopefully we've got a number of years without any cuts into it. So I think that that's great. Again, we talked about vehicles. We had, I think the last time, we had some people driving around in the electric Polaris, our first full electric vehicle, but we also just recently had the SUV for the police, which is a hybrid. It's now in service as well. Couple of things that have gone on with the loss of one of our staff, our public works managers. We got a couple capital projects that will get pushed into 2021. So I think we talked a bit about that. So yes.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I was wondering if that was the case with the bike route. I just thought that, I know that some of the work has been done, but like it says here, it might not be completed until spring of 2021, and I was just wondering what was going on with that.
Yeah, so part of it is, can they get some of the bump outs, the paving and the concrete work done, depending on what happens with the weather, right? So that was more of a weather component, and I mean, the goal is to be able to get it done, and their hope is, and we've had such a beautiful October here, they've been working along on that, but that was just, again, just wanting to be prepared that they may get to a place of we're not putting, or we're going to do it in the spring. I think in most cases, or the plan is that we would have it all done for this year, and then it would be in place, and then you would be looking just at the painting portion for the spring. So they kind of said, hey, does it make sense to kind of paint it now or wait till we get spring? So that would be that.
My understanding is 3rd Street would be completed this year, and I just actually walked down there on Friday night, or one of these nights, Saturday night maybe. And they do have all the bump outs. They just haven't poured concrete. And I think Colin's right, depending on weather. I think they're pouring concrete throughout the winter. We have a very busy construction season, so hopefully that will happen. But I think High Street, Sebastian said that would not start till the spring.
Okay, so we're not going to see the traffic calming measures until the spring.
I think High Street is coming in the spring. Okay. It was just by the time it got awarded and out there, just the schedule didn't allow to do both those streets at the same time.
I just wanted to, this has been big interest for me, but I just wanted to highlight the secondary water source completion. I think that's a really, really valuable piece of asset for our town. And just wonderful seeing that being put into place and have it ready to go. So congratulations on that.
Yeah, well, and again, like I said, we've got more coming. You'll learn more about it on the 12th, as far as one of those things on water for sure. The other part, if I could just kind of move on a couple more things, we'll get to that, Councilor Woodward, is, our community does so much work with our volunteers. When I think about up at the All-Wheel Park, the new playground that Rotary is putting in, they've got phase 1 done and moving on to the second. But also, if you've been by the Nelson Baseball Association, what they have done with Queenie Park, I don't know when the professional team is moving in, but at least we'll be prepared. So if we can invite someone along, I think they'll say, what kind of facilities do you have? And we'll say, they're pretty awesome. So yeah.
I would definitely tour them. You haven't been up to Rosemont? That outline has been, that was 3D printed in concrete. It's spawning salmon I meant kokanee is the outline of the park, and it's, that park now. And when I first got here, 15 years ago, there was that
Muddy.
field, muddy
Corral.
field
It was a
up
corral.
there. And now there's the all-wheel park, there's the
Skate park.
there's the bike park, there's the disc golf, there's the, the new washroom up there. There seems to have lots of holes in it, unfortunately. There's, whatever the sheds there to fix things, and there's the new playground. It's a park now. It used to be just nothing.
Yep.
Just really nothing up there.
And again, with so much of that being grant funded and or raised volunteer wise, that's what another part the community should be proud of. Just a couple other things here I'll mention is, we had the great news about the BCAP grant for the airport improvements, but with that being so late in the year of getting that, we won't be able to tackle those projects until 2021.
So, Colin, I noticed they did some crack sealing down
Yes, they
there,
did.
right?
Yeah. Yes, and that was sort of an operational or a capital project that was outside of the BCAP.
Okay, thank you.
BCAPs, yeah. And so they've been successful on that. Hydro's had quite a good year as well, and some of the concrete work that had been planned for a number of years has been taken care of. Again, the Lakeside sub is now decommissioned down there, and it's been paved in that space. That would happen just at the end of the summer. The Nelson North Shore Telus project is almost completed, so that'll be another thing great for our community and outside that for having fiber available to the home. And again, hopefully here, starting in 2021, this whole e-billing and being able to get your bills online, be able to check your accounts. I think we're really kind of moving along quite fast. And obviously now we've got a new general manager, so we've got a lot of changes that have happened this year as well. Again, I've talked about just public works crews and the great work that they did getting the utilities done. And as Councilor Woodward talked about, we've got the 2 kilometers of the Salis Creek part done, but the other components of the water system, like I said, you learn more about it. Overview just quickly on Thursday for water and sewer, but more of that in December 3rd. And part of that December 3rd meeting will be, Council had said, we would get some of these commercial water meters in, but we also were able to hire a contractor who's gone through, and we've seen some fantastic results on finding some leaks, finding people that had maybe sprinklers going on in the middle of the night, but the technology on the software meter reading is that they can see the minute that things start to change, where, seeing all of a sudden, why do you have water usage? It's 2 a.m. And someone goes, what are you talking about, right? And so anyway, we've had some real success with that, and we'll hopefully, my plan is to bring him in for the 3rd and to be able to show some charting, what we're seeing for water, and how even as our numbers of people and residents, and again, you think about the close to 200 units that we're going to put on in the area, that how much our water usage actually has gone down. It's quite impressive, and it's very positive for the community.
Just so that people out there in TV land, so this is not secondary source. This is bringing our current sources to the Mountain Station Treatment Center. So those are kind of 2 different projects. Secondary source is actually finding a full mother source that could potentially replace, 5 Mile in the event we had a
Fire,
yeah,
slide or something.
slide or something. And, Salis and Anderson definitely help. They are a fraction of the water that we produce from 5 Mile, so they would not be able to support our whole city in those 2 sources. But this is bringing them all together for that treatment they get the same treatment as 5 Mile.
I just feel like it's just so important to have a really, as robust of a water system as possible, and we're definitely heading in that direction, and that's really excellent for the town.
Yeah, well, and not only have the robust water system, but also where we've got leaks, let's tighten up the system, right?
Yes.
Save water that we don't need to be leaking. The last one I'll say for here is the one setback that we do have is that the sanitary sewer master plan did not get completed, and that's something that is a real key piece as you talk about the water system being robust. We need this upgrade for that system to kind of look back on what we were, how, you know, what was the system like? If we look over that 10 years, I think that we're going to be proud again of how much we have realigned. And that's maybe not so much of the issue that we have currently, but it is about our aging infrastructure out at the sewage treatment plant and what that's going to look like. And so we have been preparing for that, but unfortunately, that delay is going to set us back a bit of time as far as what next steps are. Now, again, I would invite, obviously, Council, you're always invited to be here, but to the public who is, as CEO Cormac said out in TV land there, are watching, that we do have a meeting on Thursday the 12th here to go over utility budgets, both for hydro, sewer, and water. And then we have two defined days, the 27th of November for the hydro, and then December 3rd for the water, utilities, and waste recovery numbers that we'll be going over. So invite anyone that would like to join us. Those are open to the public, and they can come and get educated. The last...
Live stream this?
We are not. We can, if we want to, because we do have limited capacity, seating capacity for the public in here, unless we can book.
Okay, well, we'll follow up on what that looks like for sure, yeah. And then the last one is that I got a letter last week that the province has given us $2.6 million, and that's to be able to deal with COVID-related expenses that we've incurred or loss of revenue. Now, we haven't really kind of sat down and figured out what does that mean. I mean, as an example, we collect usually over $1 million in parking meter revenue. Now, we've had a pretty good summer, and those numbers have come up, but if we end up at 700,000, am I able to use 300 of that, to go into the, I don't know all of the parameters around that, but, it was interesting talking to, just even to Shiloh Perkins for the police services, because we were trying to deal with them and their budget, and I was like, what, you guys seem to have a little bit of an over expense here, and then you go in and she says, well, we had one big board room table, and we had to find a way to split that up with COVID, so we had to get, different boards, separate tables, right? And so some of these expenses that you necessarily weren't thinking, but are part of what's in the budget now, but based on what this funding is coming from the province, that should help us eliminate some of those costs and will be very helpful. I'll be interested to see what it means going into the future, because $2.6 million is a lot of money. And again, we're thankful for it, but I'll be interested to know what parameters are going to be on it. So yeah. So thank you, and thanks for your attention.
Thanks, Colin.
Oh, there's one last one. I lied.
Rick's got a question, Kevin. Hang on.
And
Hang on, Kevin.
I'm just gonna finish on that 2.6
sorry,
million.
okay, yeah.
Yeah, so it does look like, they've sent us the money and we're allowed to claim revenue loss or expenditures over a period of time. So it's not just for this year, it's, appears on the surface if that we had higher expenditures or revenue loss over the next 3 years, we just have to report that annually to draw that account down.
And sorry, Councillor Lombard.
Thank you, Colin. The Chamber of Commerce draw on the CBT funded flow-through grant, the CPR station.
Yes, so they were, again, one of these nuances that happen is that people will write grants on behalf of, what helps our community, but it kind of will be the conduit to flow through those projects. So that would be sort of that, I want to say the improvements of the plaza. That's what the funding is for. So again, CBT gives us the grant, then the grant sort of gets, they're doing the work. And so then when we get the money, then whenever they get expenses, we give them a draw and we give them the funds.
So I just don't understand the offset. Like, why does that offset the travel, the savings in travel?
Well, I think part of it was trying to compare, when you're trying to look at the comparative of what's happening with the year, right? So when you've got some additional, in the previous years, expenses for revenues, but then why is it, shouldn't it be even lower, right?
Sure.
And you're saying, well, but except I've got this new thing that's sort of new in 2020 that had to do with this draw that's happening for the CP station.
Right, you're not connecting them in any way other than
Just
similar
in the
routes.
same account.
Exactly, yeah,
Got it.
same.
Thank you.
And then the last one, this was something that, we had that great presentation from Jordan on the youth center, and part of it was to get some numbers because we, felt a little naked on what was asked about what happened with the farmers market. So we did sit down and go through the numbers. And again, there's some really fantastic things that have gone on. Not only the vendor fees, I would say pretty positive to what we had budgeted, so that was great news. The grants, so the grants twofold. One, we were able to, or we weren't able to at the time when we built the budget. There was a hope that in working with CBT, and if Eco Society didn't get the market, if they weren't going to run it, that we would be able to get the grant that they had received from CBT to help, or we were going to take on their staff member. That's what we had thought, but they had already spent the money. We found that out later after we had done the budget, so that's why you're seeing the grants being lower. But there is definitely the grants that we had from CIP and the matching from Area E and F, as well as the manager of the youth center was able to get about, I think, another $3,800 in I want to say student grants or Canadian summer grants, student grants. So that's, again, it's fantastic. On the other side, supplies and services, again, under what we had budgeted at the time. Labor. Now, again, you look at this and say that labor is pretty high. The one thing that caught me on this is about $10,000 of that labor is for having the hydro come and set up the electrical panel on the Saturdays. So anyway, when I take that out of there, because the electrical part, that didn't get finished for 2020 will be done for 2021, and therefore we will not have to incur this cost because we'll be able to plug everything in because we'll have electrical down there. So that's a very good positive things, and I think it'll help our bottom line. But I just think, again, it's very impressive. And I also just wanted to point out, and I wasn't aware of this, and again, Councilor Woodward, I'm sure that you are, but that the youth center facilitated over $41,000 in coupon grants.
Yeah.
I was staggered by that, and one of the things that the youth center manager has shared with me is that part of the government, or the part of this group, and then CBT is a big funder of this, and so that was one of the reasons that we got as much as we did. But I just thought that is incredible for, again, when you look at who has to qualify for this and to help out people that are in those situations and helps out the farmers. I thought, I had no idea, again, one of those things, and so I really wanted to list it out there and let council be aware of the positive things that had happened at the farmers market this year.
The wonderful thing about that is when it started, the first year, I think it was 2012 or 2013, first year this program kicked in, it was $12,000 he ran through with the coupons, and every year the more funding would happen, more people would get access to the program. And I mean, now at 41,000, when I left in managing that, it was 24,000 in 2018. So it's increasing by quite a large number each year, and that number reflects both servicing for low-income families generally are getting these coupons, so they're getting great local food, and it's supporting the farmers. So it's you're getting two things with just one coupon. So it's really an amazing program, and also there's another component to it, which is people who get into the program also get taught how to cook food and make fresh food from the market. So nutrition is also part of the program. So it's really a pretty phenomenal all-around program, and it's increasing every year.
Yeah, and for myself, I didn't know that much about it, and then so you dive into it, and I just wanted to share that with council, but also with our community.
That's good.
Excellent. Good. Any further questions for Colin? Thanks, Colin. Great job. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Colin.
Thanks, Colin.
All right, minutes from Culture Development Committee, Public Library, Nelson Housing Committee. Pardon?
Shall we move receipt?
We've received the whole block.
Of the report.
Yeah, of Collins, so I beg your pardon, of Collins. Are you moving it?
Yes.
Yeah. Seconder, Councillor Renwick, all in favor? Carried. Next is minutes from the various groups. Anybody want to pull anything out of here? If not, somebody move receipt. Moved by Councillor Lochtenberg, second by Councillor Renwick, all in favor? Thank you. Okay, reports. Same thing applies here, more or less. Accounts payable, purchasing, building permit stats. Rusty Moose is gone.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, but Amazon is back.
Amazon is, Amazon is back.
Small numbers.
Yeah, yeah, but
a
actually,
lot of them.
I ironically enough, Amazon, there was some things you just couldn't get local, whether you liked it or not, no matter how hard you try. But if you look at the total list, they're a small part of a very long list of payables. Most of them, a lot of it spent in our community. Right?
I'll move.
Move receipt. Thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor Woodward. All in favour? Carried. Thanks very much. There's no notice of motion or late items. Motion to adjourn, please. Councillor Lochtenberg and Councillor Renwick. All in favour? And before we go, I think we should congratulate Councillor Anderson. We're excited for you, and it's really special that somebody's coming from our council table and going on to Victoria. And you know, we've gotten to know you here over the last couple of years, and we know that you'll bring a lot of passion to the table, and you'll work hard for your community, and just don't forget us when you get to the big city. And on that note, I'd like to say a special thank you to Nicole for running, Charlwood for running against you, and Tanya for running with you, I should say, in the election. Both of them, I think, did very well, along with yourself. And it's
And Terry.
I feel really proud of every one of them for putting their name forward. It really means a lot to our community that we have people that are willing to step up and stick out their necks, because we this group here that know they're elected officials, it's not that easy a thing to do, because there's only one winner. And it's a very final feeling when you lose. And each one of you deserve a lot of credit for caring enough about your community to step up. And Brittany, we're so proud of you, and we look forward to working with you in the future. And we're recording almost every word you say, so we can wave it in front of your nose when you get down there. And as last but not least, I just want to sort of talk about a little bit about November 11th coming up. And we don't have to, we're all talking about the sacrifice that our veterans made for us, and none the least of which has been my wife's family. One of her uncles never did come back from Europe, you know, shot almost immediately when he landed in France. And there's nobody around this table or probably sitting in this group here that isn't touched one way or another by either a family member somewhere in your bloodlines, or a veteran that you know that has given a lot for our country and a lot for us, that have this privilege of sitting at this table tonight and having that freedom for democracy and peace and harmony, and opportunities to put our ideas, no matter how crazy they are, out on the table, and they'll be listened to and filtered and talked about. And I just want to say a special thanks to our veterans. And I want to sort of put it into the COVID context, because my wife's dad, he went to war at 17. We're asking people now during COVID to do a few simple little things for the greater good of our community and the greater good of our country. And I would like to put this appeal out tonight on behalf of council to all of us that didn't make the sacrifice of going to war. All of us that have this opportunity, we're just being asked to do a simple thing. On occasion, wear a mask. Maybe we should wear it more often. We're being asked by Dr. Henry and Minister Dix to have small gatherings. We're being asked to toe the line on a few parameters, but nobody's demanding it of us. They're just asking us. And I want to appeal to our community tonight, on behalf of myself and council and our veterans that give everything for our country. The least we can do going forward is to stand up and be counted on behalf of Dr. Henry and Minister Dix, and just please fall within their guidelines. And I think we'll all do quite well. It's not a very big ask. It's a small ask in comparison to what happened during the wars that all of our Canadian troops went and fought in. And with that, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Mayor.
Okay. We're done?